my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today I've got another book talk video to share with you guys. And today we are talking about Paris for One by Jojo Moyes. Now, Jojo Moyes, I know, is a internationally famous best-selling author, but I've actually never read any books written by her. I was going to say written any books read by her, which is also true. But yeah, I haven't read any of her books, but I know she wrote Me Before You, which was turned into a movie starring Emilia Clarke. I haven't seen the movie either, or read the book, but the other day I was in line at the grocery store and I saw this book sitting in a little rack for $4, and I thought, why not jump in here and see what Jojo Moyes is all about? And I'd read a lot of really dark, kind of heavy books with some really tough topics, and I thought maybe this would be kind of a lighthearted read, and I was right. So it was nice to just have something quick and lighthearted and kind of feel good to read after some of the darker stuff we've been reading, and I've got some darker stuff coming up, so this was a nice break in between. So this is actually a collection of short stories. The first one in the book is the namesake, Paris for One, and that's a very long short story. It's more of a novella. It's about 150 pages, so that's most of the book. But then after that, there's a bunch, probably between 8 and 10, little tiny short stories, and I really loved those little ones a lot. The first one is fine. It's kind of predictable. But it was the little tiny ones after it that I really liked. They're kind of those like slice of life stories where you're peeking in right in the middle of someone's day or someone's week or someone's life, you know? So the first one, Paris for One, is about a kind of predictable woman. You know, she does what she's supposed to do and she overthinks everything, and you know, she's just one of those ladies. Her name is Nell. She has a boyfriend named Pete. Pete's not the greatest. He doesn't even really seem to care that much about her. He's just kind of there because he's there, you know what I mean? So she decides she's going to spice things up. She books two tickets to Paris. He's kind of lukewarm about going in the first place. And then when it comes down to it, she goes to the station, she's waiting for him, and he texts her to say he's not going to make it. So now she has 2 tickets to Paris for a romantic weekend getaway, and she's alone. So off she goes. Well, at first he says he's hoping he'll catch up with her later, so that's what makes her go to Paris on her own. But then once she's there, he says he's not coming. I would be so mad. But anyway, she tries to make the best of it. She goes out, and eventually she meets a waiter at one of the places where she goes, and they kind of hit it off, and they have a bit of a whirlwind weekend together, because at this point, him standing her up to go to Paris, that's pretty much the end of that relationship. And then her and this waiter named Fabian, they hit it off, and the rest of the story is just about that. It's predictable, but it's a nice light story, so it's fine. But like I said, what I really loved was the shorter stories. One of the stories I really liked is called Between the Tweets. And it's about this man who's an actor. He's had, you know, a fairly good level of success, but in the past little while, he's just not as relevant as he used to be. Then one day, quite out of the blue, a Twitter account appears and it starts tweeting out these rumors that this person behind the account has been having an affair with him for months. And he's adamant he doesn't know this person, he doesn't know why they're tweeting him like this, he doesn't know what they want from him. So this goes on for a little while, and then eventually the wife confesses to one of his team members that it's her. She's the one behind the Twitter account because she's trying to drum up, you know, some PR, some controversy around his name, so people will start talking about him again. He'll start being in the papers again. So she decides she's not going to tell him that it was her all along. She's just going to let him think, you know, whatever. But she'll tell the kids eventually, just so that they're not worried that, you know, their parents' marriage is about to fall apart. So towards the end of the story, and this is a very short one, probably like 6 or 7 pages. Towards the end of the story, she goes back to, I'm not sure exactly where, let's just say like his agent's office or whatever. And she gets there, and the guy's like, I'm so sorry, I couldn't stop him. He was determined to go and do this. And she's like, determined to go and do what? And he's like, he said he wanted to come clean. So he's doing an interview with, one of the television stations where he's confessing to the 3-year-long affair he's been having with his makeup artist. So that blew up in her face. But yeah, that story, I was like, oh, it's a real kick when you get to that ending. And yeah, can you imagine? So, but I guess it's good if the truth came out so that she doesn't, waste any more time with him. But yeah, talk about a backfire. There's also just some really nice stories. There's one story about a woman who accidentally takes home the wrong bag from the gym, and she's in a rush. She realizes that her bag got swapped with another woman's bag. She's complaining at the front desk of the gym, but the woman's long gone, so there's really not much they can do. The best they can do is say, bring it back tomorrow and hopefully she's here and you can exchange them. She's like, I've got work meetings to go to, and she's kind of like the kind of woman that's kind of stuck in her routine. She wears sensible shoes, she wears sensible clothes, and she's just in that routine. So anyway, she opens up the bag to find out what shoes she's going to wear that will hopefully, fingers crossed, fit. And they are a pair of stunning red-bottomed Louboutin high heel shoes. And she's looking at them and she's like, I can't wear these to work. She's like, I've got meetings, I've got accounts to secure. So eventually she's running out of time. So she puts them on and her whole day changes. She notices as time goes by, she's walking with her back a little straighter, her head a little higher, and she's just really feeling herself in these shoes, and she's like killing it at work, closing all these deals that she had been struggling with before. And it's just this really sweet story of this woman kind of tapping into her confidence. And the next day she brings the shoes back and gets her bag back and gives the other woman her bag. But then as soon as she leaves, she goes to the store and buys herself a fancy pair of high heels. So I thought that was pretty cute. There's also at the very last story is a little Christmas themed story, and it's about this woman. She's in a taxi cab and she is frazzled. She is running around town trying to get everything she needs for when her mother-in-law arrives in town for Christmas. She needs to find this specific bottle of perfume for a gift for her mother-in-law. She needs to find a specific cheese. So while they're driving around, she's talking to the taxi driver. He can see how very flustered she's getting. And at one point she's like, oh my God, I forgot something. I have to go back to the other side of town. She's just like, pull over, let me out. I can't pay any more money for a cab. I'll just take the bus. And he's like, no, listen. This is my Christmas gift to you. I do it once a year. I'll turn the meter off and let's just get what you need to do done. And as they're rushing around, she gets a text from her husband, who in it is just berating her because she picked up the wrong Christmas pudding. And, this knocks the wind out of her. She's trying so hard to make a perfect Christmas for him and for his mother. And she kind of has a breakdown in the cab, and she's like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this anymore. And he's just kind of like, how about we go to the airport instead and you go visit your friend? Because earlier on she'd been telling him that if she could go anywhere in the world, she'd go to Barcelona to visit her best friend who lived there. So he's like, why don't you just go? And she's like, I can't. She's like, if I don't show up at home, my marriage is over. I can guarantee that. And he's like, who cares? He sounds like a jerk. And she's like, that's true. So then that story ends with him dropping her off at the airport for her to go and visit her friends. And then another one that's great is called like The Old Coat. And it's about this woman, she's a wife and a mother, and she's got this coat that she's had for years and years, and it's falling apart, and she sees this beautiful new wool coat that she would love to have, but it's so expensive. And her and her husband, while they're not, they're not destitute by any means, but they've got a bunch of kids and money's tight, and his car, he's talking about the starter doesn't seem to be working right, and she's just like, oh no. So in passing, she mentions the coat to him because She just, she mentions it in passing. And one of the things that she does a lot is she helps his sort of aging and ailing father. She cooks meals for him. She makes sure everything's okay for him. She does it happily and without any expectations. She doesn't want anything from anyone for doing it. She's just happy to do it. And so one day eventually she's like, you know what, I need a coat. So she goes into the shop that she passes by every day on the way to work, and they don't have her size. But then she goes home, and sitting on the counter is a bag from the store. And she says, what's this? And he says, my father mentioned the other day that he wanted a way to thank you for all that you do for him and all the meals that you cook for him. And he said, I told him I knew just the thing. So he said, I picked it out. I went and picked it up, but he paid for it and he wants you to have it and enjoy it. And it's just, there's such little sweet little stories. Like, just a peek into these lives, these everyday kind of lives. There's nothing too spectacular about them. And I just love those little peeks. So I would recommend this book if you're looking for something light, and especially if you like Jojo Moyes. I mean, it's chick lit, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's not what I gravitate towards, but it's fun. It's a nice, especially with summer coming up, if you're looking for a nice light summer read. This isn't new either, which is why it was $4 probably, but it's from 2016. But it's nice, and yeah, if you like chick lit, you definitely like it. And if you just like a nice light feel-good stories, you would like that as well. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you on Monday with an empties video. Bye, guys. He doesn't even seem to really... Excuse you. Okay. One, two. Okay. 1, 2, 3.